Hello and welcome. Today we are analyzing Silken Hollow on Eternal 32, and this is one of those dungeons that it gets progressively easier the further you are in, because I feel like the first couple pulls there's a lot of damage, the tank is taking a lot of damage, you're focusing really hard on keeping him alive, and then the last pull on the boss, they are not easy, but they're like much more relaxed. As long as you get there with time, as long as you have the time to kill the boss, it feels like a lot more relaxed than the first couple pulls. As always, if you're enjoying these videos, don't forget to subscribe, and if you have any comments or any criticism, please comment below. I'm trying to make this video as best as possible. I will try to implement anything that seems feasible for me. Thank you very much for being here, and let's jump right into it. So for talents in this dungeon, we are having a little bit of a change. We're moving away from Oblivion's Embrace into Paradoxical Twist. Erasure, amazing talent, a lot of damage, a lot of healing in AoE as well. Like, I don't think you should drop Erasure. You're still doing Oblivion a lot, even if you're running with Paradoxical Twist. Really good. Euchronia, Chronotab, the talents are almost always taken. Chronotab is good for the boss because the boss does not do a lot of damage, so you can just spam without worrying about your mana pretty much. And Euchronia is a no-brainer. Every 3 Chrono spells, you get a free Chrono spell. You always hastening Doom, 20% whenever you cast Doom. Amazing. You want to fit as many spells in your Doom window, so you always want to run this. And Synchronicity, I quite like this talent because you generate more Chrono when you're low and you might need it. And you also, if you are not in the need of spending Chrono for Cleansing Stagger, for Oblivion, for healing, etc., you can just choose to do more damage with barrages or even with the dots and everything. Surging Chrono, amazing talent. Even though the tooltip is wrong, it does not give 30 Chrono, it gives 60 Chrono every time you activate Fleeting Hour. So really good. And then the change here is Paradoxical Twist. This does that every time you barrage during Fleeting Hour, when Fleeting Hour is active, your barrage is buffed. Does 20% more damage, and it goes in AoE if there's other targets. Right, so this means that it will do a lot more single target healing and it will generate more Chrono. This is good because a lot of the damage in this dungeon is towards the tank. The whole dungeon is tank damage. So this is why this talent is really good on this dungeon. You're generating more Chrono, which means more Cleansing Stagger on the tank and also more healing. And Echoes of Divinity kind of follows the same idea. You cleanse Stagger, which means you're cleansing more on the tank and the tank can survive longer. These are like kind of the default talents, the ones I would run if I didn't know the group, if I didn't know like other options that I could have. Now I'm gonna go and deep dive a little bit more into the talent. So if you're interested in like looking at logs, looking at numbers, just skip to the next part. But if you are interested, just come with me. We're gonna deep dive a little bit. I don't want to make this part like super long, but yeah, let's go. Right, so I'm gonna use Fellow's Guide here so I can like switch between the talents that I'm thinking about and everything. So obviously the first thing you think about when you see that I'm running Paradoxical Twist is Temporal Shift. So I've run this. I've actually made tests with this. I've run like 2 different Silkens, and like one of them was with Synchronicity, the other one was with Temporal Shift, and we can like, I will compare them now and I will show you the numbers as to how much more buffed up barrages you can get or how much more Temporal Shift is active. I've also run this, and missing one, which is, yeah, Surging Chrono never goes away, never mind. So this is the other option that I've also run. This is probably the highest damage option you can run because this makes Oblivion do 20% more damage, and Oblivion is your most clicked spell here for sure. So let's just go and run the differences here. So I'm gonna compare their build with this. So I did this the first time I cleared this dungeon, because I was very scared for the tank. So this is like almost like no damage build, like not no damage, but you do a lot less damage with this build. So it is, I don't recommend dropping Erasure. Erasure just does so much damage, especially on the boss, and the boss is half the dungeon. You have to think that this is one boss dungeons, the boss is almost like half the dungeon, so it is probably worth to drop one of these to get Erasure, right? So now I'm gonna go and compare damage. First of all, the one with Temporal Shift is here on the right. So as you can see, my Temporal Barrage did 11.30 million in the entire dungeon compared to 9.91 million, right? So you can see I got more 20% extra damage barrages and more AoE barrages. However, my Oblivion here did 1 million more because I was running Oblivion's Embrace, which means my crits deal 20% more damage when it's an Oblivion. And then I was running Erasure here while I was not running Erasure here, and I lost 3.7 million of damage and also healing, not 3.7 million healing, but healing that I lost by not running Erasure. So that's the first thing that we compare. I also want to compare this on the boss. Just on the boss, as you can see, Oblivion, roughly 1 million more damage. I did more casts here, so let's say roughly 1 million more damage when I'm running Oblivion's Embrace. And then Temporal Barrage here when I'm running Fleeting Hour and I have more Temporal Shift active. Obviously Temporal Barrage will do more damage, so I gain like 500,000 damage, but I lose 1 million on Oblivion. So you can see, I think running Oblivion's Embrace will actually benefit you more. You will do more damage. And then, sorry, here I'm running Erasure, which is 1.5 million damage, where here I'm not, and I lose a lot of damage by just not running Erasure. And then finally, before we go into cast times, I'm going to compare the uptime of Fleeting Hour with both builds. So when I'm running Temporal Shift, I have roughly 10% more active time of Fleeting Hour. These two dungeons are very similar, they're 1 second apart. One of them is 1436, the other one is 1435. So they're pretty much the same. So if you're running Fleeting Hour, what you get is 10% more uptime. Now, the next thing I'm going to compare is how many times I've actually done Buffed Up Barrage when I have Fleeting Hour and when I don't have Fleeting Hour. So over here, I have a dungeon where I do have Fleeting Hour, which means I've done 137 barrages in the whole dungeon. And up here, I'm filtering with when the Fleeting Hour buff is active. And from those, I forgot the number, 137, 87 were buffed up. Fleeting Hour, so they were doing 20% extra damage, and they were in AoE if there was a possibility of doing them in AoE, right? If there was not like one target only. And in the other dungeon, I have them over here. I'm on the boss here. Well, that's a spoiler. I did 233 barrages, so I think 5 less. Yeah, 5 less. 4 less, actually. Math was not mathing. And then from those 103, 875 were buffed up, sorry. So 75 buffed up when you're not running Fleeting Hour compared to 87 buffed up when you're running Fleeting Hour. These are the numbers. I will leave it up to you. Make the simple change of dropping Synchronicity to Temporal Shift. You get more barrages. I think this is more survivability. Obviously, you get more buffed up barrages. You have less cooldown on the things, less cooldown on Doom as well, because Fleeting Hour also runs longer and has less cooldown itself. Obviously, I don't want to say that my logs are like absolutely optimized to the maximum. So you can probably do this better and optimize Temporal Shift even better than I did. And if you just want to do damage, if you think your tank is not gonna die, he can just like run the dungeon and you're not having issues with like the tank surviving and everything, I would just recommend you to go with Oblivion's Embrace. You don't really need the shields. It's good for Mother's Milk, I guess. Like having the shields up for Mother's Milk is really good, but it's mostly for the damage and the extra healing that you get from the 20% damage that your crit does. But yeah, that's pretty much it. This is the damage. This is the recommended. You can change Synchronicity with Temporal Shift. Do not drop Erasure for Synchronicity. Don't think it's worth it. If you wanted the damage, go Oblivion's Embrace. Hope you enjoyed the numbers. I hope you enjoyed looking at these things. And yeah, let's go talk about gems and weapon. We're pretty much running the same exact setup as the other dungeons. We still rock the Diamond Strike and the Kindling, mainly for damage. Also some healing, but it's mainly for damage. King of the Heal, actually, I think it has a lot of value in this dungeon once again. Cheat Death is just really good. Any fuck ups, anything that can happen, it's just like avoided thanks to Cheat Death. And Allegiance is just good as always. A cooldown reduction on your weapon, AoE haste on your party, it's just really good. For the crit, still rocking the 10 crit. 6 red, still as good, same principle as King of the Hill. You just stay a lot of time above 80%, which means you can have 9% main stat with a lot of uptime. Haste is always good for Aeona. More spells means more Chrono, means more Oblivion, means more damage, more healing, or more Cleansing Stagger as well. It just makes it everything a bit more smooth. And then the 2 diamond just to buff the Diamond Strike, which has a lot of value in this dungeon specifically because you can refresh that on the boss thanks to the ads. So it is actually a lot of value for Diamond Strike in this dungeon. Okay, so let's go into the dungeon. In the first pull here, we pull both Bully Bashers, the empowered one and the not empowered one. And we focus hard the not empowered one to remove the threat from our tank. And we just like single target blast the one that is not empowered. and that would reduce the threat to our tank. Obviously the one that is empowered will do a lot more damage, but it also has a lot more HP. So we figured that if we kill this one, at least it will just remove the threat. The tank takes a lot of damage on this pull. You will see me like cleansing stack a lot more in this pull. You see me like barraging enemies all the time with the empowered barrage because of the talent. I can't remember the name of the talent right now, but 5A. And you always want to try and barrage enemies because it generates more Krona and it heals more. Since it, especially when it's empowered, right? Especially when you are in the fleeting hour window, you always want to like do barrage into the enemy, since it will just generate more Krona and heal more because you do more damage. And then once one of the bully busters, the one that is not empowered, it dies, then we just focus on the other one, and that's it. Like the pool stabilizes a lot here once one of the bully busters dies, and we just go on. I think you play a lot of the empowered minions in this dungeon because after the change they made of powered minions being worth 3x the count, it is actually quite worth to play them. I've seen a lot of people as well playing this pool, but chickening the first bully buster, the one that is not empowered, and just focus on the one that is empowered. So we take everything here, we take the recluse as well on the right, and we take the venom drinker and we take it to the pack next to the witch here. And here we just focus hard on the venom drinker to just get away with all the interrupts, because we have 2 venom drinkers here, which means 2 poison adults and a lot of venom bolts going off. And here as well we're playing another empowered minion, but this time it's a recluse, which is funny because you always think that recluse just put the heartstopper and they don't do much, but this heartstopper actually blasts. Like the heartstopper that this empowered minion puts out, you need to dispel it. Like, it is quite nasty. And I start like waiting when I see like heartstoppers to see which one is the one that does the most damage, because one of them will like take like a half HP from someone and the other one will not take at all. Whenever I see the heartstopper that is the one hurting, like the rhyme is like having the heartstopper that is like doing a lot of damage, I will just dispel. And then once the venom drinkers are dead, I believe we just go into the witch, so we can just speed this up. Always try, like we always try to, I think we're gonna mass spell here with the other mass spell, but we always try to like, with this winter bosses, always try to like pull other things on top to make them more efficient. They are not that bad, as in that not big of a deal when it comes to like damage or even like danger. So it's always efficient to, even if it's just a chain pull, if things are low, try to be efficient and just pull things on top. So here we're just blasting the witch, cleaving off her, but our main target is the witch. Try to always have 1 shield on the witch. And here I will just ult for the shield, and as well just blast when the witch is there. And it makes it a little bit easier. And then we interrupt, being the witch, nothing else is happening. And then here we use our first shroud. We play this dungeon with 2 shrouds. Do not play any carrions. I've seen people play carrions with Aeona as well. It is doable, but we just thought this was like easier to do. Here we're again playing another empowered minion, which is a kidnapper, and an empowered venom drinker. We chicken the carrion, and we just focus the empowered venom drinker because he's nasty, and we try to interrupt as much venom balls as we can. Of course, poison arrow as well. And the same thing applies here, is try to keep heartstoppers to a minimum. There is no real nasty heartstopper here, but use your master spell, try to like not allow it to like run on for a long time, because then you get overwhelmed and you don't have enough spells. Here I think on the chain I was not really ready. I did not have enough Krona. I was not really ready for this chain, so I kind of fucked up there a little bit. I think here I'm gonna master spell, waiting for the last second. But yeah, as you can see, every time I have fleeting hour, barrage becomes like my most important spell. I need to spam barrage because it does like a lot of healing and it does a lot of damage as well. It generates a lot of Krona. So once it's like there, like once I have fleeting hour, it becomes my main spell, my top priority. And here finally we're gonna pull the other kidnappers. We're still focusing on the kidnapper that has been empowered. It doesn't really do much, just a little bit more damage on the tank, nothing else, and a lot more HP of course, but they're all worth to play because they're not that bad. The worst one was the bully basher because it like hurts the tank a lot, and then the recluse is a little bit annoying because of the dot, but the dot happens so far and in between, like you don't really realize that. Like at some point you're like, fuck, this person is taking a lot of damage, I should dispel, and then you dispel and you just go on. It doesn't really become really hard. And here we use our second shroud because we're playing with double shroud. And then we just go down here, and this is the boss. This boss is rather simple. Like, I literally just damaged the boss. The only one at risk in this boss is the tank. The tank takes quite a bit of damage for this boss. The rest of the party, the only time where we're in danger, aside from making a mistake or anything, is Mother's Milk. And since you're like running Master Spell, it doesn't even become that dangerous. So it's just here is the game of keeping the tank alive, spelling before Fang Strike. So here, for instance, let me just go a little bit back. We have 4 stacks, right? Okay. It goes into 4. I can't. There. I got the pause. It goes into 4 stacks, and I will click Master Spell right before the Fang Strike goes through, so the tank doesn't get taking damage while Fang Strike is happening. So you always want to dispel at 4 instead of at 5, especially on the 1st, 3rd, 5th ones, because then the tank doesn't have to tank Mother's Milk and the Fang Strike at the same time. So I dispel here, I do a cleanse, and then instantly after the stagger cleanse, he gets Fang Strike, and then he gets 2 stacks of Heartstopper. Yeah, the main danger in this fight, aside from any mistake that can happen, is the tank damage that is happening. The whole dungeon is pretty much tank damage. That's the thing with this dungeon. Obviously interrupts are also dangerous, like kidnapped interrupt. If there's an interrupt that has been missed, or there's no stops or anything for a kidnap, it is really bad. But I'm assuming you're all really good and that never happens. So that's perfect. And then we have the new Mother's Milk here. And again, it's just the tank being in danger. The rest of us are pretty much 100% HP constantly. So it's not really a dangerous part for any of us. The whole dungeon shares the same idea. It's a lot of tank damage. All the bully bastards, all the mobs attacking the tank. Like, there are no really other, like, some enemies would do something to you, but you're never really in danger. And that's the dungeon itself. It's really easy. The problem with this dungeon is the timer. The timer is tight, so that requires you to do like some pulls that are really big, like the ones we did, which gets hectic, gets chaotic, right? And then people are more prone to make mistakes, interrupts to be missed, dispels to be forgotten, everything, right? Like all of the party is into more pressure because it's bigger pulls, and that makes everything a bit harder. But you know, the tank itself, I feel like if you get to the boss with enough time, the boss is not hard per se, unless if you're the tank. But that's it. We just focus boss here, and he dies, and GG's. 27 seconds left. Well, I hope this has shared some insight into the dungeon. There is not a lot of things happening as a healer here. You're just healing the tank. Your job in this dungeon is keeping the tank alive and dispelling. There is quite a bit of dispelling in this dungeon, but hey, at least we get to use the button, right? But that's it. Like, there is no real special mechanics or complicated healing moment aside from just keeping the tank alive. We just focus much more on stagger cleansing on the tank and healing the tank. But yeah, I hope this has helped someone out there, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, and good luck with your keys out there. Thank you. Bye bye.